Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. I am your host, John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about 1971's Dirty Harry and its brand new Warner Bros. 4K steelbook that just came out. But before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, I always like to give a quick film review, and today is no different. So if you don't want to know anything about the film Dirty Harry, and you're just here for that 4K Blu-ray review, you guys can skip ahead to that right now. So back in 1971, Dirty Harry was released to the world, directed by one of the greats, Don Siegel, and starring one of the all-time great actors and directors, Clint Eastwood. And this is probably one of his most famous performances, playing Dirty Harry, or Harry Callahan, which is his real Christian name. And Dirty Harry is one of the most famous films of all time, one of the most popular films in Clint Eastwood's filmography. I would say this, Unforgiven, The Man with No Name trilogy, probably The Outlaw of Josie Wells. Like, when you think of Clint Eastwood, those are probably right at the top of the list. This movie has some of the most iconic lines in film history. Do you feel lucky? Well, do you? Punk, which he says twice in this movie, and I'll always think of The Mask every time I hear that, which is funny because Jim Carrey does one of the great Clint Eastwood impressions, and he got his film debut in the Dirty Harry franchise with his last film, Deadpool, so, you know, all of it can be linked back to Jim Carrey. But Clint Eastwood, he was born to play this role, and it's really funny because he actually turned down the role because he was making his first film. The first film he ever directed, Play Misty for Me, came out in 1971 as well, but he said he wrapped shooting in 5 weeks, and he called up his buddy Don Siegel, and they were having trouble with Frank Sinatra, so he came in and took the role over that he was, you know, destined to play, and thank God he did, because we would have ended up with this great crime classic, one of the best cop films of all time, and inspiration on so many other films. Clearly this movie, though, because the plot of this movie is following around Clint Eastwood's Harry Callahan, Dirty Harry. The police force just always gives him the dirty jobs to do. If someone's about to commit suicide, they send Harry up there. What I love about that, the early scene in the movie where he's sent up to help talk a guy off a roof, very unique way to, like, bring a guy down from suicide. It's funny because you can clearly see that Martin Riggs, the character of Martin Riggs from the Lethal Weapon franchise, took so much from the Dirty Harry character that in both the first Lethal Weapon film and the first Dirty Harry film, it's funny to see them try and talk somebody off the roof, but they do it in the worst way possible. He just knocks him out in this movie, Clint Eastwood, while in Lethal Weapon, they jump off the building onto like some big inflatable raft-looking thing so that no one dies in that. So I would say that Riggs has improved. He doesn't knock the guy out and punish him for trying to kill himself, so an improvement by Martin Riggs. But still, you can clearly see that it took so much from this rugged, gritty cop who's not even sure why he does this job anymore. That's one of my favorite scenes in this movie because Clint Eastwood, he doesn't deliver too many lines in this movie. He's very much playing the similar character that he plays in a lot of the westerns of the time. A man who doesn't speak that much, but he's such a presence on the screen. You're just drawn to Clint Eastwood. I was just drawn to Clint Eastwood, even though when I was born in 1992, that was supposed to be his retirement film, Unforgiven. But really, that was just like the second act of his career or third act of his career beginning because he went on to direct so many other films. But you look at this movie and you see him in here, it's no surprise why so many different generations of people get drawn into Clint Eastwood and get drawn into Clint Eastwood movies. This movie came out 21 years before I was born, but when I was watching this movie last night, I had a shit-eating grin on my face, and I just loved it. And the line I was talking about when they ask him, why do you do it then if you hate it so much? I don't know. I really don't know. Like, that line is perfect. It's delivered with such emotion, and it's such a quick line, and only an actor like Clint Eastwood could really pull that off, because, I mean, I guess a lot of it's his voice and his facial expressions, because he's just a phenomenal actor. And he's perfect for this role, and he's perfect in this film. I don't know how I feel about the Scorpio Killer, which is clearly based on the Zodiac Killer of the time. We're in San Francisco, so it makes a ton of sense. 1971 San Francisco. Of course they're going to pull from the Zodiac Killer. They name him the Scorpio Killer. But, you know, this guy's a little bit more at the forefront. He's begging to get caught. And this guy, every time we see him on screen, his facial expressions... the noises they make are just so ridiculous. I get that trying to sell him as a complete and utter psychopath, but I mean, all these years later, I don't know if that entirely works. It was making me laugh a little bit, and it's a little bit ridiculous if you ask me, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't take too much away from the movie. It just would make me laugh a bunch. You know, obviously this movie is also filled with plenty of great scenes of just seeing Harry do his thing, showing us why he is the great cop. A cop that's not really respected, a cop that, you know, there's a reason why he's not respected either. He's not the greatest guy in the world. You know, he's the anti-hero. He's in the gray area. He's not black or white. He's not the white wearing cowboy or the black hat wearing cowboy. No, he's trying to show you that there's a fine line between being a cop and a criminal. And, you know, this guy, they make it pretty clear he hates everyone. It doesn't matter what race they are of people, where they come from. He's not a lovable guy. He doesn't give a crap who you are. He's not going to like you. He's going to go out there, do his job to the best of his ability. A lot like another film that came out in the early 1970s, another great cop film, which I would argue is a better film than this. The French Connection, starring Gene Hackman, another film dealing with a cop that's the anti-hero, not the true white hat wearing hero. No, this guy, he's got a life, and it's not the greatest life. And the thing that gets him out of bed in the morning is being a cop and, you know, doing some justice. And at the end of this film, he feels like, okay, we finally got the guy. And he takes his badge and he throws it in the water, which is the exact same ending as Point Break, which is really funny because he literally throws the badge in the water the exact same way, and then the film ends. And I've told you guys a million times here on the channel that The Fast and the Furious, the original 2001 The Fast and the Furious, is pretty much just a carbon copy remake of Point Break, but just swap out surfers for car guys, and that's how you end up with the Fast and Furious franchise. So when you think about it, the Fast and the Furious franchise owes all of their success to the Dirty Harry franchise and the original first Dirty Harry film, because if he didn't throw that badge in the water, then Keanu Reeves wouldn't have thrown his badge in the water in Point Break, and if that movie wasn't a success, we wouldn't have ended up with the Fast and the Furious, and we wouldn't have the Fast and Furious conglomerate that we have today. So it all circles back to one of the great cop films of all time, the one that so many other films took an inspiration from, with a great score as well. The score of this movie fits it so well. It feels like a 1970s film moving along in an hour and 42 minutes. I mean, we don't really get too much dialogue in like the first few minutes of the movie, and I love it for it. It's just that down and dirty, gritty crime film. A lot of this movie takes place at night. It's hard to see, but really all that's in the best way possible. We just don't get movies like this anymore, and obviously they would move past this in the 1980s, but this is still an all-time classic film. One of Clint Eastwood's best films, one of Don Siegel's best films. I would argue it's my favorite Don Siegel film, and if the franchise never continued with more sequels, I would have been perfectly happy with that, because like I said, it ends on the best note possible, and I just absolutely have loved Dirty Harry for all these years, and I'm so happy to see it getting the 4K Blu-ray treatment, and that's why we're here to talk about that today as well.
Being this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. Got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Well, here it is, one of 3 Clint Eastwood movies getting the 4K Blu-ray and 4K Steelbook treatment today on April 29, 2025. Got my hands on this bad boy right here. I pre-ordered it through Groove. Got all of them. I got the Outlaw Josie Wells and Pale Rider. You'll see 4K Blu-ray reviews for that later in the week as well. And I absolutely love the artwork on this 4K Steelbook, guys. I mean, it's a one-disc set, so no Blu-ray packed in here. It is Warner Brothers. That's just what they're going to do, so all of your extras are going to be on there. I know not a lot of people love the Steelbook. They wanted the 44 Magnum on the 4K Steelbook, which makes sense. I mean, that's one of the best guns in the world now, isn't it? And that's Clint Eastwood's gun, so it would have been cool. But I actually really love, obviously, you guys know how I like pink and everything like that. So the pink and yellow and everything works so well for me on this. This has kind of got like a semi-gloss finish over a matte finishing. Personally, I love this 4K Steelbook. I love the other two as well. And if you compare them to like the standard edition, those are just shitty editions in my opinion. And this is one of the rare times where I say, you know what, the Steelbook option was absolutely the best option, because I mean, the Outlaw Josie Wells, Pale Rider, and Dirty Harry, I appreciate them like going with a similar design for the standard editions, but they're not in the same franchise, so I don't understand why you had to do that, other than to try and push people to buy the Steelbooks. One thing we talk about, like what Disney did with Tombstone, is they only gave us here in the US the Steelbook option, which if people didn't like that Steelbook, that's all they could get. But here in the United States now, for at least for this, even if I don't think that standard edition looks good, hey, at least you gave us a standard edition for people who don't want to buy the Steelbook and just want the movie itself. For the most part, that's usually how I feel, but I thought that standard edition because kind of looked very cheap, so that's why I went with the Steelbook personally. But a lot of the time, and for the most part, I'll just go with the regular standard edition just because, hey, I want the disc. But in certain scenarios, and like this, like I actually truly love the Steelbook, and the other two as well, I decided to get the Steelbook options. But at least they gave you the option to get the standard edition, even if it is cheap. And of course, they don't include the Blu-ray, which, kind of sucks. But hey, all the extras are going to be on that 4K Blu-ray disc. And they actually pack a pretty good amount on there, including 2 new extras, which I really appreciated because most studios won't do that, especially the major studios. Again, look at Tombstone from last week, that they're charging $55 out of the gate and then dropping it down to like $41, and they don't include a single new extra. Hey, you get 2 new extras on here, looking back on the film and how it's inspired so many other filmmakers and actors today and numerous generations of people. You get one looking at the cinematography, which I love because this is a beautiful film. A lot of people might not think of this as a beautiful film because it's such a gritty looking 1970s film. Well, that is a choice. I mean, there's a beautiful shot in this movie with Clint Eastwood and the Scorpio Killer, and they zoom out of the stadium, and it's gorgeous. And that is what? How many years ago now? Over 54 years ago at this point. Incredible. So I'm glad that they actually explored that as well. You get a great Clint Eastwood documentary on here. When these are all archival documentaries. These are all archival extras now. Those two are the only new ones. But that Clint Eastwood documentary, it's about an hour and a half long. I loved it. I mean, it aired in 2000. I think it's part of a long-running show where they had these, where they're exploring a bunch of actors and everything like that. But I loved it. I mean, I watched the entire movie, then I watched this hour-and-a-half documentary on Clint Eastwood. It was just a great night. That's why I love extras. I know not everybody cares about the extras. They're just there for the film. But, I watched the movie, then I watched all the extras. They were talking about, like, a 4-hour night. And I just had a blast. Like, that's why I love movies, and that's why I complain all the time when things like Time Cop don't have extras on it, because for me, it's a whole night experience. Just watch the movie, then watch all the extras. And, I really got to enjoy Dirty Harry again and just experiencing everything and just finding out how the actual film was made. And I don't know, I had an absolute blast, and I'm really glad that they gave us all those extras. I know people are going to be disappointed that they don't have that second Blu-ray included. And I am too. For people out there who just collect Blu-rays and they just want to get the new scan downgrade to the 1080p and you can't buy the Blu-ray any other way, I really do feel for those people. I feel like they kind of do get screwed over a little bit because Blu-rays are still really good quality, and jumping up to 4K Blu-ray, we talk about it all the time, it's very, very expensive. But how is the 4K Blu-ray when it comes to the visuals and audio? Well, my God, Warner Brothers at this point, they can't miss. Between last year with The Searchers and North by Northwest, The Terminator was a great 4K Blu-ray upgrade in my opinion, and one thing that they're doing with the audio now is that they're giving us brand new Dolby Atmos tracks while giving us the original theatrical audio as well. What do I always talk about? Giving us options. So if people don't like it when they give us these brand new Dolby Atmos tracks because, they don't match up to the 1971 film, those real historians who really want to see the film as it was presented to you back in the day. And then there's people like me who want the film to look as good as it possibly can. You can always go back and watch this on like VHS with the crappy audio, and that's fine because you know why? This is the kind of down and dirty gritty movie that would look great on like a 24-inch CRT TV with pop that VHS and the VCR. This movie is the kind of movie you watch like that. But if you want to watch this in beautiful HDR10 and Dolby Vision and have that brand new Dolby Atmos track, a really good, well mixed Dolby Atmos track as well. I mean, the gunfire sounds incredible, makes great use of all of your channels. I mean, you can hear it get fired in front of you, then fire go right past your ears. Incredibly well mixed Dolby Atmos track. I mean, I couldn't have imagined a Dolby Atmos track being this good for a film this old. It blew me away. And then, of course, again, like I'm saying, you can switch. If you don't like that and you want to hear it in its original audio, it's right there for you, and it's really good. I saw people saying that that's the version that they would choose to watch it. More power to you. That's awesome. They gave you options. I chose to watch it with the Dolby Atmos track. I thought it was great. It's not like in like the Terminator where like I had nostalgia for the old audio track where I would switch back and forth with this. I'm fine with upgrading and just checking it out with these beautiful visuals and audio. So I was really happy with that. And then of course, how about those visuals? Well, they're stunning. I mean, they're incredible. This movie has never looked this good. It probably has no business looking this good. The HDR and Dolby Vision do incredible work. Like I said, a lot of this movie takes place at night. You can pretty much see everything now like that you're supposed to see. Like, he's walking around with that yellow duffel bag. That's really for us to know where he is because in the tunnel you can't really see much, but you can always see that yellow duffel bag. Now you see a little bit more. That yellow duffel bag obviously like stands out a little bit more, but it's funny, the scene where they introduce it, the way they lit that, it's like such a green room that the yellow duffel bag essentially doesn't look yellow anymore. But that's of course just how they filmed the film at the time. That's one thing that a lot of people I don't think take into consideration when it comes to 4K Blu-rays is, if they have one light source in the room, when it comes to 4K Blu-ray, yeah, it's going to look pretty damn grainy because they had one light source in the room. I don't think people quite understand how that kind of works. Like, a lot of stuff is the source material and not necessarily the 4K Blu-ray transfer itself. You can only do so much. Miracles don't happen every single day. So for this to look as good as it does, it blew me away. And truly, this is one of the best 4K Blu-ray releases of 2025. I'm really curious to see how Pale Rider and the Outlaw Josie Wells are. The thing is Dirty Harry is one of those special films, one of those films that like has been chosen by the National Library of Congress for being historically significant, and it is. So for a movie like this to receive the true upgrade that it deserves, and honestly, in comparison to like what Disney and Buena Vista did with Tombstone, to get an upgrade like this to one of those all-time classic films, and they didn't charge an arm and a leg. They know Dirty Harry is one of those films that everybody wants on 4K Blu-ray, and they didn't. Like Warner Brothers, yeah, they cheaped out, didn't give you the second Blu-ray, but I mean, for the visuals, audio, and extras, and packaging, that's the big four. There's really not too much to complain about when it comes to the Dirty Harry 4K Blu-ray. I don't really hand out 10 out of 10s too often, but I have to give this one a 10 out of 10, even though it does lack that second Blu-ray. I mean, for the price and everything you get here, for a regular major studio like Warner Brothers, this isn't Arrow Video or anything like that. Like, this is in comparison to that, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe not as many extras or as packaging doesn't hit those levels, but still, Dirty Harry, one of those special films. I'm so happy, and I know you guys are going to be so happy with this. So again, this one's a 10 out of 10, must own in my opinion. If you're a fan of Dirty Harry, you're going to absolutely love this 4K Blu-ray. And guys, that's going to do it here for me on another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, guys, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer like John Doe Juggalo, or even a channel director like Uncle V, Nicholas Head, and Kevin Kruger, you could do that as well. Or you could even become a channel bankroll member like Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews and Mr. Smelly Potato. You guys can look for all the information and all the perks you get in the description below. But of course, if you got no money to throw away, guys, we don't mind at all. We just hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you. All right.